Greetings, Mark Garang here, publisher of the Conway Daily Sun. And today, there are 6 candidates running for Conway Selectmen. And today, 3 of them are with me. And Dave Weathers, John Colbath, and Jac Cuddy. And they're all candidates. John is the current candidate. Dave has been a selectman for 22 years, Dave?
Right.
22 years, currently not a selectman.
Right.
And you're on the Conservation Commission and a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, 5 committees.
5 committees. And John, you're chair of the ZBA.
CBA.
And a volunteer for lots of organizations.
Yes.
Jac, you're the executive director of the Economic Council.
Correct.
And you were selectman in 1842? No.
No, it's probably 1992.
1990s? I thought it was the mid-2000s.
I was appointed by Ray and Cindy in 1992 when Aunt Nancy Allard left, and then I was re-elected. Then I had to run because that was the charter change time.
Okay, so you've been a selectman, you've been on the budget committee, even the chair
I've
of the
been the
budget
chair
committee.
of the budget committee. I was the chair of the selectmen. I've been on the planning board as a selectman's rep.
You've done a lot.
I've
So
done-
we've got a lot of experience
Yeah.
here, and you can cast your ballots for everybody right now, maybe. Maybe not. Okay, so we're going to try to hit some issues and there's a lot of interesting issues. I mean, a lot of the time, the school is very controversial, and the town over history has not been very controversial, but there's a lot going on with the town, and I think that's kind of changed, or at least the town is as controversial as the school these days. So let's run through a couple of issues. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
All right, so one of them is the police station, $8 million expansion. Dave, what do you think?
It's needed. If you take the tour, you'll see the condition of the building. My only reservation is what can the voters able to absorb at a decent rate for that $8.8 million expansion. There's no question about it. If you hold off and don't do it this year, it's just going to get more expensive another year. It's just a lot of money. I personally am going to vote for it, but I'm not sure the voters in themselves, how they feel, can they absorb that at this time?
John?
I agree with what David said. I'm totally for it. I think the police department deserves better than what they have now. Again, we've all done the tour, and I encourage people. There's an open tour date coming up. I think it's April 6th, maybe. Anybody who hasn't toured it to go and tour it. I'm going to vote for it. I don't know if the voters are going to feel that we can afford to do it at this time. Kathy Golden got recently the bond rates for both 20 and 25 years, and it's a lot of money.
Jac?
Oh, definitely. I would say that I was on the board when the town decided to make where the police station is the municipal complex. So originally, the police station, the courthouse, and the town office it was segmented into three office spaces, three buildings, and so the town has chosen, rightly so, to move into where it is today, and so the complex is kind of missing that expansion of town office. So I'd be supporting it 100%.
All right. You guys, okay, let's move on. So one of at the deliberative town meeting, probably the most controversial thing, at least demanded the most discussion, was the road around Settlers Green Common Courts.
Yeah.
So the town took over Barnes Road Extension, I guess,
Right.
last year, which goes by Market Basket, and the vote last year to take over Common Court was actually pretty close. And Rob Barsamian, Sellers developer, was there and made a good case, and all the selectmen, including you, John, are supporting it.
Yes.
So, Dave, are you supporting that?
No.
And because?
I think the system we had in place, or have in place now, should be adopted for this situation, in that if the developer or a group of landowners bring a road up to town specs, then put it out to the voters, let them decide. This is superseding that. You're deciding on a road that isn't up to town specs at the present time, but they'd be able to float a bond. And it's more economically feasible for the developer. We're not going to assume total responsibility for the road until it is up to specs. Why not do it the way we have been doing it?
John, how do you supported it? How do you respond to that?
I was in favor of it last year, and I was in favor of it this year. At the budget committee meeting after the deliberative, after the budget hearing, the budget committee was outspoken that the selectmen favored it last year so we could add another driver, which is absolutely not true. With it, it would not take any additional driver. It would take more manpower time to plow and maintain the road. But betterment is betterment. It's a betterment bond of which the taxpayers are not going to pay a cent on. It's to improve. We have a wonderful master plan going on about improvements and betterment. We're talking about putting a large affordable housing development on that road. We have a new large supermarket. The road is well-traveled, and I see no reason why it should not be brought up to a standard. And the developers chose the betterment plan to do it, and more power to him.
Jack, you're going to be the tiebreaker on this one.
Yeah, I know, and I've been thinking a lot about this one because the bottom line in common sense conversation is that, but if the voters vote for this, they're doing a developer a deal, because the developer is going to be paying back something that the town has gotten a betterment assessment bond on. And what happens there is that obviously in the article, the road is already accepted, other than the fact that it just needs to, according to the specs of the town, it has to be built to town specs, which is, and then it automatically becomes part of the town. So I agree with David in most of what David said. I'm not against, I think it needs to get done, but I think we're doing a big favor for the owner of Settlers Green. It's a development, and we're making a special exception for a developer to put in a road and being able to pay it over long term through the ability of the town to get a bond. And the other part of that is that it only takes 2 or 3 people to vote for it, and one. In other words, the majority. It's a majority vote because it's a betterment assessment bond. It's not
on the ballot.
Yeah, on the ballot. It's not a
Right.
60%.
Right.
It's not a 60% vote. So you could have 5 people say yes, we want to do this, and they're making that decision on a $1.3 million bond, basically.
When you say 5 people, you mean 5 people, the selectmen 5 people?
No. 5 voters.
Okay. You mean
5
it could be a
voters
close, you could be a
on the
close
5-voter
vote.
vote. They can win the vote. And
It only takes one.
I know, but my point being, I understand it only takes one, and that's a real key issue, because I'll come back to that when we're talking about the charter, because that's why the selectmen didn't want to trust the 7 councilors, if they get voted in, to be able to have access to a $2 million bond. But it's okay for one voter to make that decision.
You say one voter, just to clarify that, you mean
One
like if,
ballot vote.
if the vote
Margin
is
of-
780 to 779.
Right.
Is what you're saying. Well,
The
that's not-
779
I know,
win.
but that's not one vote. That's 780. It
Well,
happens
yeah,
to
but
be a
in my mind, it's not a 60% bond vote
No,
like
it definitely
normally.
is. Okay.
And so that,
So,
all
so
I'm
the
saying-
trouble with but what Rob Bassamian is saying is that, hey, I don't want to put $1 million into that road because I don't know whether it's going to be accepted or not.
right.
And that's basically what. And so you guys are acting on principle of saying everybody else has to pay for the road first. So why should we allow this guy to do it?
It's a 2-step program. Normally, a developer has to build the road to town specs, pay all the costs to have inspections and all the other stuff. And then once that's done, then they have to go to the voters and ask the voters to approve, take over the road.
Right.
All right. So this is a one quick stop deal.
All right.
Period.
So do you want to? Let's move on. But John, since you're the minority, you want to respond to both these guys?
No, again, it's betterment, and I see no problem with doing a bond over long term, which is not going to cost the voters anything, and it's an surety bond. If they fail on the bond, then the town gets the abutting property.
All right, okay, good, okay.
And we'll take
Okay.
those condos, we'll take those buildings and
And-
we'll turn them into affordable housing.
There we go. And and yet the housing you're referencing is both Barsamian's housing, because he's going to build some condos where the old condos are now, right? No, I'm sorry.
No.
He's building the condos where the old racquetball club.
With the racquetball club,
But where those condos are is going to be
which
New
is
Hampshire.
not off this road.
not off this road.
No.
No,
It's
it's off
gonna be
the
off-
Barnes Road.
off Barnes
Yes,
Road.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the idea is that, and this is what Mary Carey Seavey said, is that, people use the Settlers Road on Common Court as a thoroughfare, not just privately. Okay, let's move on.
As a bypass.
As a yeah.
bypass. Yeah.
We don't use that word anymore, John.
No,
We
no.
don't use bypass anymore.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I asked, actually, Dave, you're at with the Conservation Commission with
Right.
the new rec trail going in.
Right.
So, a little diversion here. I asked Tom Eastman, reporter, to ask somebody about whether there would be room enough to extend a north-south road. I mean, what's clear to me is that after, and I don't know who, I know I was against the bypass. Jack, you were way against the bypass 25 years ago. Dave, were you against the bypass?
Yes.
John?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, well, that was, okay. So that's very diplomatic of you, but,
Part of why I don't remember is I live on Stark Road,
right.
and it was going
And
to
that's
cross.
a bypass now.
It was going to. That's a bypass now,
Yeah.
even though you say we don't use that. It is a bypass. I believe at the time it was going to go over Stark Road,
Yeah.
and Stark Road was going to go under it, and just whether you were for or not for the bypass, because of the local things, people took sides. Like people on Stark Road, either half of them wanted it to go over, half of them wanted to go, well, a third, and a third didn't want it at all.
Yeah. So, and the reason I bring that up is that one of the solutions, because we are kind of overloading our new improved road system, the north-south.
Right.
The roads
Yes.
gets crowded up here on CV Street, it's jammed, all that stuff, and we know Conway Village is going to be going on to this next year, being the intersection is going to be fixed. But one of the ideas back then was to extend the north-south road.
Right.
So I think, and Tom Eastman asked Paul D, I think at the meeting, either at the
I'm
meeting.
trying to remember who answered him, but somebody gave a definitive no, there's no plans to extend up through Kearsarge.
Now, Chris Meyer, who's with the rec trail, said that there was room for it. So I guess in concept, do you guys support that going through?
The design review committee did all that stuff. We did all the work. We had Ross Sebo there. There's enough, I know for a fact, there's enough room on the railroad tracks on that area to put another, we could have continued it on then. The problem then that it didn't get continued on is the state was only going to pay up to Mechanic Street. It wasn't going any past that. And it would have cost the town a $2 million bond to continue that out to either where the terminus was for the bypass, or take it out to Intervale
So
Crossroads.
do you support the idea of it now?
I've always supported it, and Mark Council support. I don't want to speak for Mark, but other people in the master plan steering committee had brought that up. I think it was in the paper that he was supporting.
Yeah. John, what do you think? Would you support it going through?
So it was, Tom asked the same question at the planning board meeting last night, and it was discussed. To my understanding, to do that, the terminus of that road going on back on Route 16 was on property where the Bittersweet greenhouse used to be,
Yes.
Right.
which is now a piece of property that the state has divested itself of, and they're negotiating with a group that wants to build affordable housing associated with Memorial Hospital, so there would not even be a place for that road to terminate if
That's-
it was to extend it, which I think just complicates the whole thing.
Well, I would disagree only because the housing authority. I was on the board of the housing authority when we approved the budget for them to buy Remote Trail Road, or that property to do that. That's always been the case, and so I think that everything is negotiable. The authority is able to expand because they voted on the ZBA gave them the extension to the number of units they can put on in the other place. I think that's all up for discussion.
Jack, it is up for discussion, but previously it was very unpopular for the extension because it would need to go through Whitaker Woods.
Right.
and we can't even decide where dogs and people are supposed to be in Whitaker Woods, say nothing about putting a road.
Well,
Certainly the
Whitaker
people on
Woods.
Kearsarge Road would love it because
Absolutely.
Dave, what do you want to weigh on this? These guys chattering about this?
Well, the thing is, the north-south road was never designed for a bypass. It wasn't intended to be a bypass. And now you're talking about extending it to compensate for the state's boondoggle, shall we say. And I don't want it going anywhere near Whitaker Woods. The rec path extension, the second phase, that's why we emphasize that if it's going to impact Whitaker Woods, it'd be on the very northern terminus. And I think the Conservation Commission did an excellent job in working with them to minimize the impact, shall we say. But a road going up through there, that's a beautiful piece of property. And it wasn't intended to be that. I don't see the problem now, and I travel the north-south road a lot. I stay right off 16. The concentration of vehicles where they have to go east to west when they reach the northern terminus, that's probably the busiest section right there, and that impacts the residents the most. But at this time, I'd have to see a lot of information to show that you can justify extending that.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that right now, who's paying for the north-south road at this point in time with the traffic heading into the village itself is Kearsarge Road and Intervale Crossroads and Hurricane Mountain Road, because as Stark Road is a mini bypass, so isn't the heart of North Conway Village as Kearsarge Road, because people take
I
a
travel
right-hand
it all the time.
people take a right-hand turn off of the north-south road at Kearsarge Road, and they go up to they take the little street and cut over, and then go by John Fuller's over to Pine Street,
Yeah.
and onto 16 at the light or River Road, and that's for everybody that's going on north-south road that want to take Pine Street or River Road because they want to get over on the west side. So there's a ton of traffic at this point in time, and the queuing that happens in the village right in that area is because it ends there. And the reason why it doesn't go to Mechanic Street, because we didn't want to.
It's one way.
It wasn't supposed to be originally. Paul D. made that suggestion to make it a one-way. That original plan was for it to be the same thing right to Mechanic Street.
Why was that? Why is it a one way? What's the purpose of only having it one way?
Because of they wanted to be parking on the bottom line was that they just were afraid with having 4 stop signs and having it go through Kearsarge Road, which is the main road there, that it would be more dangerous to have it like it is right now with the 4 stop signs that you've written about, the paper's written about many times about the accidents and stuff. Well, that's what they were concerned about, and Paul came up with the idea and made the suggestions, and that's how it went down.
Yeah.
That we would make it a one-way from Mechanic in, and there'd be parking for people on the eastern side of it.
It is true that the distance between Mechanic and Kearsarge is not a lot of distance. I mean, it could easily get jammed up there if you had 4.
Absolutely.
Mark, I think the issue was Mechanic Street was residential neighborhood, and Kearsarge Street was already considered more residential in a way to get to Cranmore.
Yeah, and it's got some commercial businesses
Right,
up there
right.
anyway. Yeah, can I put a plug in to put a couple extra stop signs on CB Street here? I mean, people running. It's like we get extra entertainment sitting in the office here because people run into each other all the time.
You know what you might want to suggest? What I suggest is what I've seen is now that the solar-powered batteries on stop signs are in some places have that, and what they're doing, they're putting the leaded lights or the lights around the stop sign, and they're attached to the battery-operated solar thing, and so you have that blinking
Jack, we already
thing
have
all
those
that
on
time.
the crosswalks.
Yeah, the crosswalk. And this stop sign is faded.
Well,
It's
that's what I'm
wasted.
saying.
It needs to be
I've seen it
replaced
on.
anyway.
I've seen it on.
Yes.
All right, let's
stop
move on.
signs.
We solved our traffic problem today. So what about this is a tough one, the inspection program. The selectmen instituted an inspection program. Eliza Grant basically said it is now, there's a warrant article that basically, I think everybody agrees, would help legitimize the inspection program, right?
Yes.
And now it's been extended for another couple of weeks, the deadline to register. And this is registering for safety code issues, all rentals, not just short-term, but long-term, all rentals. So I'm not even sure what my question is, but you want to know, how do you think it's working, Dave?
I think it's definitely needed. I don't know why a landlord, renter, or anybody in that line of, call it work, would not want to have the surety, peace of mind, insurance that my building is safe for whoever's in there occupying it. As a renter, I want to know that there's sprinklers. I want to know there's 2 means of egress. All of a sudden, I'm down in the basement, and there isn't ample escape route out of that basement. It shouldn't be there. We see this all the time on the fire department. And there are some people that are very compliant, other people are just ignoring it. I don't know if they're doing it because of economics or what it would cost to bring it up to standards, but there's no reason in the world that the inspection program shouldn't exist. They've extended the the years rather, and I think after the second inspection now it'll be once every 7 years, which is an improvement, less economic impact on the person who is actually having the property rented. But I think it's needed, no question about it.
John, do you think it was the selectmen did it as smoothly as it could have been done?
Yes.
'Cause it seems as though it came up pretty quickly and people didn't know what the heck was going on back in November, December.
No, I don't know if I would say smoothly. I think we did it in a timely manner. It's all about life safety issues, as Dave said. And I think it was the right thing to do in the right direction. And I think the voters will vote highly in favor of the program.
And because it didn't, you know, there was some bugs in it at the beginning. I mean, there was language about hardwired fire alarms, this idea that someone could walk in and see some other problem that's not related to the exact safety code issues. Are you happy that that language and the
Yes.
process has been
There's going to be
tightened up?
bugs in anything, in any new program, and it's got to be trial and error, and it's got to work itself out with doing. And I think the people at, excuse me, the people at Town Hall who are involved in the program are very reasonable people, and they know that it needs to be tweaked, and we've been tweaking it.
And what about the lawsuit that's probably going to happen, right? It's going to be challenged. The the group that represents really the short-term renters are challenging this, right? Or will probably challenge it. And are you still hearing that they're suggesting to people that they not sign up, register?
No, I'm not a part of it. I haven't heard it. You know, we as selectmen on at least a weekly basis have people say lawsuit. We'll just cross that bridge when we come to it.
All right. Jack, what do you think?
Who can say that life safety isn't an issue, isn't important? The town of Conway for years didn't have building codes for residential homes. It was only in commercial, and it was stuck to for a very long time. I think only recently, the last few years, the selectmen have agreed to put the statewide code or what into thing, and that's kind of all been brought about by the STRs have really driven that bus. The bottom line is that if this is to deal with it does two things. The STR safety code, obviously, for an STR is actually saying that they are doing business. So it kind of splits the residential aspect of a home in a residential area that's doing business and driving.
But this
an
isn't
income
just
up.
for short-term rentals. This is
No,
for
I
all
know.
rentals. And I think the town, and Paul D in particular, has been very careful to articulate that this is not a targeting short-term rentals.
Right.
I know, but the bottom line is that
Paul D.
I don't think that you need to, it's costly to
So
do.
you don't need the inspections? Is that what you're saying? You don't.
Well, the town didn't make it a part of the building code for years, and now all of a sudden, these people that have lived here for 10, 15 years, and now they have to have an inspection.
When you say lived here for 10 or 15 years,
Well,
you're
own
talking about
property,
rent-
own
So if you
property.
have long-term rental, so you don't think we should have inspections for long-term rentals? or short-term rentals.
Well, no, I said life safety code is important.
Well, that's what this is about.
I know, but I don't think, I think it needs to be looked at a lot more than the way it is doing.
So you think it's too strict?
I do. I think it needs to be looked at, I think anybody that's renting property to a non-seasonal, a long-term rental is different than a short-term overnight
Sure.
weekend rental.
So what you're saying is a difference between the two.
Right.
We should have registration inspections for which?
The short-term rentals.
Not the long-term.
No, because the long-terms have been there, those buildings have been there forever.
All right. Now, one concern about just getting involved with sort of the bureaucracy of inspections and registration is that then we'll have a residential construction inspection, which we don't have now, right?
Right.
I mean, we're only on commercial.
Right.
Do either of you favor that? I've always thought that why do you need it? Because now you have to have a licensed electrician, you have to have a licensed plumber, right? Everybody has to be responsible. Why do you need it? I'm asking you, do you think that's the next step with as the bureaucracy of town hall grows and the inspectors want to do more inspecting?
I personally don't have a strong opinion on that. Most of the cases for equitable waivers that come before the zoning board are reputable builders who have built in the wrong place, dimension-wise, too close to a setback, too close to a street, too close to a well, what have you, with it, because there wasn't a follow-up inspection. There's one building inspection at the time that they start the building, and then it's not inspected. So that would be alleviated.
I mean, those
Yeah,
problems
those
would be,
problems
they'd be,
would be.
intersected before they get to you at the ZBA
Right,
when someone's saying I'm a foot too close to the setback or something.
I'll tell you strongly, I'm not in favor of adding more inspections and then needing to add more manpower, to do it. We need to keep that in consideration, how many people we employ in town to do what.
All right, Dave, do you have any thoughts on that? On home new construction for residential?
Take, for example, when I built in '74, my septic system was the only thing that was inspected. I knew the importance of electrical and plumbing, and those are the only two places I'm building a residential home right now that requires a certification to do that work. There wasn't anything else provided to or required by the town. I knew in the back of my mind what I wanted and what quality I wanted, and that's how I hired the different people to do the job. At some point down the road, and I hope it doesn't come from a failure, structure fire, something like that, is the root of the cause, but I see inspections becoming more prevalent further down the road. It's just a matter of time, and what type of situation led to that point, I can't tell you.
What you're half suggesting is that it could take something catastrophic that would kind of be
Probably.
a tipping point.
That's the way I think. The way it's going right now, people don't want the intrusion. They don't want people coming into their own personal homes in particular and telling them what they can and can't do. The state has the qualifications and the requirements for your septic system. If you're in town, you're hooking up to the sewer system, so that's complying with the state regulation right there. But if you're in an area not covered by town water, town sewer, that's inspected. But that's the only thing.
Okay. Speaking of,
Just
I'm sorry.
one quick thing.
Sure, sure.
So, anybody, in this day and age, anybody can wire their own house or put in a plumbing. Then just go in YouTube. Look up a YouTube, tell them how to do it. So why should anybody inspect or tell them what to do?
Are they qualified to do it, though?
No, of course they're not. I personally know my limits. I would never take on wiring anything.
For the cost of homes today, I can't see anybody not wanting to make sure that the stuff that's
But Jack,
putting in
on
the
the
building.
other side, if I'm building a house and I want to keep the cost down, then I'm not going to hire people to do it.
Well, then I wouldn't want to buy the house from you then.
No, well, it's people building their own house. I'll give you an example. I have recently I have two smart thermostats in my house, and I get tired very quickly of battery needs replacing that, so they needed to be hardwired in. You know, I had to wait like 3 months to get an electrician to come do it, but I hired somebody to do it and do it right. I wasn't going to do it myself.
Was he licensed? Or
He
she?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's not very many, well,
It was Wylar Electric,
Yeah,
DW
yeah,
Electric,
and
who
they-
came and did it. And I had to wait, you know, get on the list, wait to get an electrician to come to my house. That's part of the issue too. You know, finding qualified people to come and do the work.
Again, the only thing I'm saying is that obviously I support lifestyle
Safety, life safety issues, yeah.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't want to make sure that someone who's renting something, but I think that right now I think if it only pertained to people that were deriving income from short-term or rentals, are the ones that are putting people in their homes on a long weekend or whatever, and those people are assuming that everything is okay. People that have lived in a home, have bought a home, have been in a home and that's where they live. Most of them have always put in, for the most part, have hired people that we all know to do the electrical work or the plumbing work, and they're all certified. And to have to go back into those homes today and do inspections, I don't think it's necessary right now. I think it's important that people are protected that are renting, that keep bringing their children or whatever, because that's what the short-term rentals do. They find a home that has a place where they can have 2 or 3 bedrooms, and they can have their kids and cook and do that stuff. That needs to be inspected.
All right, so I'm going to move on to the, and actually it was my, this is a small town, you know, so we all do different things and wear different hats. So I led a petition for a short-term rental warrant article, which basically would say that if you rent more than 30 days, and this is on the warrant, and if you rent more than 30 days cumulatively as a short-term renter, you have to comply with some state standards, which is called R1, which is very strict. The selectmen, you voted, I think 5-0-0-5 not to recommend it. The planning board was the same thing, except Eric Corbett, bless his heart. He was the only one who supported it. And my 2 cents, since I'm the one who sponsored it, although I'm not running for selectman, is that I think a lot, and this is really, and it was Chris Meyer, who's the lawyer in town. He's also the town moderator who put this together. He's got a lot of experience. So my analysis is that it's either Chris, it's lawyer, and they're both good lawyers. Jason, the town's lawyer, is very good, but it's really the opinion of 2 different lawyers. Chris thinks it can hold up. Jason doesn't. My personal opinion, I wasn't privy to the non-public sessions with the selectmen and planners. I think you guys are a little gun shy of being sued. And so I think it's easy to look at something and say, oh, you know, that could be a problem, let's not support it. So my question is, Jack, I'll start with you since you were to talk about the short-term rentals. Are you going to support that? It's on the warrant. It's the short-term to have short-term rentals inspected.
Am I going to support your?
Yeah.
Yes, I signed that petition
I know.
because I think
Well,
it's.
Mark Council signed it too, but he changed his mind.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't change my mind. I think it's the right. I think it's a good solution to a situation, and it doesn't penalize to us to a major extent, and it allows, you know, most of the short term. And to be fair, the short term rentals, in my opinion, only, is that the property that's been bought by investors have been the root of most of the issues that have been risen in the neighborhoods, because investors who buy 2 or 3 or 4 single-family homes have jacked up. They've done a lot of things.
There's only a few. I mean, in fairness,
There's only this few.
In
There's
this
yes,
ordinance,
absolutely.
because it allows 30 days in a calendar year to rent, like 30 days,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it allows people who are doing it historically just to offset taxes, but it really targets the investor. That's the point. But there aren't that many. But those few investors definitely are disruptive in the neighborhoods.
And that's why I signed
John,
it.
You didn't vote for it.
Right. Again, we got legal advice,
Right.
you know, based on, my short answer is no. And my short reason why is, I think it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to enforce. So I'm more based on an enforcement issue. I remember working closely with Phyllis Sherman on ZBA issues and when Tom Irving was the town planner, he consistently warned us, don't put conditions on things that you can't enforce. You know, make it more difficult.
Well, it could be
So-
part of the inspection program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dave, thoughts?
I'm a little confused what you're asking. Are you
Well,
saying
Are you gonna s-
anything less than 30 days should
Right.
be inspected and over 30 days
No,
not?
the way it's written is that anybody can rent short-term
Right,
up to 30 calendar days a year.
right.
That could be 15 weekends or 5 weeks, whatever. If you go over 30 days, then you're subjected to what's called R1, which is state safety code requirements, which are very strict. It's, you know, like they're hotel level strict. So you could require a sprinkler system, for instance, or firewalls. So basically it's to discourage investors from doing what Jack just said, is to buy those 2 or 3 homes and turning them into hotels.
But we've been talking about, call it short-term rentals, inspection on life safety, which
Right.
is basically addressing 2 or 3 different areas. And I'm not sure what you're asking, if it goes beyond 30 days, how that's any different than being less than 30 days. If you lease out your home or a cottage for 20 days a year total,
Right.
should that be inspected? Yes, definitely. Beyond the life safety codes, getting into that other category like hotels, motels, no, I don't believe so. But I don't know that much about what the other inspections require. But for life safety, for means of egress, smoke detectors, size of windows, things like that, definitely.
All right. So
Am I answering your
yeah,
question?
no, you are, and it's a little confusing because the inspection program the town has now does that for everybody.
Right.
Right.
Whether you rent 1 week or
Right.
all weeks and long term. This separate warrant article says if you are basically what I consider a commercial business in a residential zone operating an Airbnb, you know, which some are, that, you know, 12 months out of the year, then you're going to have to satisfy a higher level of safety codes. That's what the article says.
It's 2 different things.
It's two. Oh yes,
It's
definitely
two,
two,
it's two
definitely
different things. One is just to deal with multiple investor ownership buildings, and that's where, even though there's a small amount of them,
Yeah, they cause most.
they
of the
cause
problems.
most of the problems.
Yeah.
They would have to be inspected according to the regulations. All we're saying is that if you're only doing it, you can only do it 30 days a year, and you get certified by you go to the town and you get a license to do it for 30.
You don't need a license. If you do it under 30 days, all you have to do is require the town's regular inspections.
Right.
It's like you're not on the map.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
And Mark, you know, we are consistently told that's not a short-term rental. All those people are my family and friends who are coming and using
Yeah,
my
well, that-
property. So
that's
so
fine
don't-
if they're
don't
getting
bug me.
if they're getting 5,000, if they're getting enough money to pay their taxes on an annual, and that's most of these short-term rentals. If you figure out what they're actually earning over those 30 days or less, it's enough maybe to help pay some of their taxes.
And that's on a regular Airbnb basis. I
Yeah.
mean, that doesn't count having families and friends that
Right.
people just do anytime. It's really going after those investor properties that I think we all know. I know I live on Conway Lake, and I've got a couple Airbnb people next to me, and they rent responsibly, and they're fine. But there's 1.5 mile away who rents all the time, and it's pretty much ruined the neighborhood. I mean, those people spend a lot of money to live there, and they're next to a party house. Nobody wants it. Anyway, let's move on. All right, how about the Charter Commission? Now, Dave and I are on the Charter Commission, so I think we can speak for both of you and say that I think we all should support it.
I'm not supporting it.
Well, you vote, okay, Dave. So,
I voted to get it out there, that's all.
Explain your position.
All along,
yes.
I've had reservations. I think there's the value of re-examining our existing charter definitely needed to be done. And whether you go with this commission of 7 people or stay with 5, that has to be updated. It won't be updated if it's defeated this year until you bring it forth again to apply to the existing 5-member board. But to say that the selectmen are overworked right now and that's going to spread out the workload, I don't believe that. To say that it's tough to beat an incumbent, once they're on board and they become an incumbent, what's the difference between 5 or 7? The bond issue, giving the authority for that commission to approve without going before myself as a voter for $2 million. I don't want that. They don't deserve that power. I want it to go out and be voted on by the voters. There are a number of different things that just don't seem to add up for the necessity of going to 7. To go from original 3 to 5, I served on a 5-member board. I would never serve on a 3-member board. But I don't think because I mean, I've got a good handle on what the workload is as being a selectman, and I don't think the 5-member board is overworked. I really don't.
So the Charter Commission came up with, and Dave was on it, and I was on it. Again, it's one of those small town things. We wear multiple hats. And so it was charged with basically rewriting the charter, which we did, right?
Yep.
And a lot had to be changed in that. And a lot of the big parts of it was, as Dave is alluding to, is that it would go from 5 selectmen to 7 councilors. And the other thing that you had issues with, even that you voted for it, but just to repeat it, you voted for it just to give people an opportunity to
Right.
vote for it. I think, is it safe to say that the other 8 of us voted to support it, to actually support it? Is that true?
Originally, it was split down the middle, and over the course of all of our meetings, gradually people changed from neutral to voting for it.
Okay, that's fair.
And I was the only one left
Yeah,
standing. But I'm sorry, I don't see the necessity for it.
yeah. John?
I think I'm the person who consistently attended meetings, or I watched every meeting of the Charter Commission. I voted as a selectman in favor of it, but I'm almost like two-faced. I'm with David. There's parts of it that I don't like or agree with. I personally don't agree with electing the ZBA.
Okay, that's
And
part of it.
that's that part of it.
The
That was
zoning
one of
board
the
is
things.
now appointed.
Is appointed,
And
and the planning board's elected, zoning board is appointed, and I think it should stay that way.
And why is that?
It's difficult, is right now, to get appointed members of the ZBA without having people elected. Part of the rationale of increasing to 7 members
Of the council.
of the council was to decrease the workload for the existing 5. Yet the charter wants 4 elected ZBA members and a selectman appointed, which just puts additional work. I mean, I do it now, but I've been on the zoning board
Right.
30 plus years and was on long before I was a selectman.
Yeah, and Dave and I disagree with this. I mean, there were a couple points, and this is kind of inside commission baseball, but there were some people in the commission that wanted 7 to spread out the workload, which Dave articulated that he doesn't see the need. I was one of the people that said we need 7 to get better representation in town, more people involved with town government. But anyway, Jack, what do you think?
Oh my God, I'm the odd man out here because I wanted the Charter Commission. I'm the only one that has gone from a 3, who was part of the last time we had a Charter Commission. I was on the board when we were 3. We went to 5. There was a big change and a very positive movement to go to 5. And I think that at this stage in the game, there's so many things that enlightened me at the deliberative meeting last week, that there's things that should be more proactive and more looking at the future for the Conways instead of being reactive to things that bouncing back and forth and bouncing back and forth. I think having the 7-member board is not just the workload, it's more diversity in the abilities. I remember when we went from 3 to 5, and I remember when we had to look at, which we don't have to do as much now, is buying the equipment for the highway department and so on and so forth. And I remember having Mike Valadares being on the board of selectmen and helping, and Paul would bring in things because he was in charge of the highway department and question whether or not this particular truck or whatever. But the point being is that he was looking at the cost of the dollars and what was needed and the difference.
You're saying that Mike was there, so he was an expert in trucks.
Absolutely,
Right.
and I think the ability to have more experts in their particular field. John is an expert in the medical profession. David was an expert in environmental issues.
What are you an expert in?
I'm not an expert at all.
Well, you got a tech
Economic
village down there.
development.
I'm a,
Economic development, yeah.
I'm a finance guy. I'm a conservative finance guy that has
Right.
looked at the and just bringing that up. Okay, one of the things in the Charter Commission, which is getting rid of SB2, which I would
We
love to
can't
see.
do that. We can't do that.
Well, I know, but not for the
Not-
school. I mean, talking about the town and what we can
Right,
do.
we can't get rid, but go ahead.
All right, but the thing is that
That's right. So let's say, I'm going to move
No,
on.
because I want to
Right.
talk about
What?
one thing.
Okay, shoot. You got to remember it, though.
The bond issue, not the bond
The
issue,
$2 million bond authority.
but the capital. No, I'm talking. Well, the first thing
Capital
is the capital
reserves.
reserve. I was amazed when we first started the capital reserve. There was only like 3 capital reserves accounts. And Paul, this was going back when we were 5 members, and the point being was we didn't want to have the taxpayers get hit hard because we needed to
Right.
spend some more money, and this was putting money aside. Today, I looked at it. There's 9 capital reserve accounts, totaling opening balance January 1st, 2024, $3.3 million, earning $2.25% interest rate, which is crazy. And nobody's looking at the future and saying, okay, fine. What the Charter Commission does is it allows that to be wrapped into one
All the capital reserve
capital
accounts.
reserve accounts.
Right.
Things need to happen. There needs to be some proactivity in challenging. I think the challenge needs to be to the staffing, to come to the council or the board, even today to the board, to bring stuff to the board that are new ideas and new things that are happening, and I don't see that happening. Plus the fact that when I was there, we had what we thought had term limits, and the school and the up until we went to 5-member select board, we had term limits. Everybody could have 2 consecutive terms. They had to take a year off or whatever, and then run again if they wanted to. But that was it, and that got changed because it wasn't in the new charter. So the Charter Commission, by passing the Charter Commission, it opens up the door to do more positive things for the town. And you can get hung up on the $2 million, but that can be fixed.
And it can be changed by a special article. But and at the point, I'm going to interrupt you here for that, because I'm going to defend that $2 million. And the other thing, John, about the $2 million, and Dave, about the $2 million, is that the town and the school have surplus money every year. And you guys could spend it. I mean, the school just had $3 million, and it's been approved, and you can spend it, but you don't. I mean, town officials don't, because they're school officials, because you're just responsible. So the idea that all of a sudden you're going to get 7 people and they're going to spend it on, fancy cars, this ain't going to happen. Plus, it needs 5 out of 7, and you have public hearings.
Mark, a response? I'm not opposed to the $2 million. Being a selectman over time,
Right.
$2 million is not going to take you very far in today's market, period. I don't think the voters will vote for the Charter Commission, but I think that whoever is sitting selectmen after the election have an obligation to review the charter as soon as possible, some committee form,
Definitely.
and make some good needed changes to be proactive and to update.
Right.
Parts
That's it. I'm going to take
parts
that
of
as a
the charter.
sideways endorsement to vote
Yeah.
for the new charter.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So, Jack, you were kind of alluding, and I'm going to put words in your mouth here. We have 10 minutes left, so we've got a couple things, and then you guys get a couple of minutes to get on a soapbox here. But leadership, just overall leadership. And, I'm the publisher of the paper, so I've written editorials critical of the selectmen over the years, like how did we get into the sign mess? How did we SDR mess? I mean, we seem to be getting in these messes that, and I've been critical of the selectmen for not being upfront, or at least, being on a soapbox to talk about these issues. And so generally, since Jack, you started, how would you characterize the leadership of Town Hall now, and how do you think it should be changed, if any?
Town hall being what?
Selectmen.
The selectmen?
Yeah, I mean, the staff is
well,
always very good. Staffs
okay,
are excellent, a school or town.
Okay.
It's the selectmen that are, and the school board members, I'm just kidding.
Okay, no.
Everybody works.
First of all, being defensive for the selectmen. Selectmen, when you put yourself out there as a selectman, you're trying to make decisions that you feel as though the voters are supporting, and you're looking at the tax dollars that the voters are spending. and they're depending on you to be the responsible person to bring forward some transparency, some things.
Right.
And I think the selectmen have always done that. I think what happens is there needs to be a change, quicker changes of those positions. So I'm
Of the selectmen's position themselves.
of the terms of this of the time
why
that
is
they
that?
can, because I think it's important for new people to be able to come in with some new ideas and so on and so forth, and not feel as though, I think being on a board for 6 years or 10 years is way enough. It's time for new ideas to come.
So wait a minute. So you're running again. So you're saying you have now
I haven't
new
been on the
ideas?
board. I have some new ideas on being proactive in certain things that I would like to see change that haven't been discussed for the last 20 years. But
Okay, so that's what, John, what do you think? I mean, you have to be defensive of this. You're the
No,
you're the
I don't have
select-
to be defensive. I think we could always do better by it. You know, nothing is perfect. We get elected. People don't understand it. It's up to 20 hours a week to be a selectman. There's a lot of responsibility and duties and things to do.
part-time job.
It's a part-time job. And you represent a broad constituency of people who have broad views and interests, and you can't please all the people all the time. As far as leadership, I think talking in terms of town fathers and leaders of the town, I think we do a decent job. I really do. When we don't, it's fodder for you to write articles for the newspaper, so you should be thankful for us.
No, thank you, John. You've been playing right into my hands.
Yeah, see?
But I even think like with the short-term rental articles, which is what, 3 years ago now, but they were just very confusing, and at the last minute, people realized what they were, and even for the paper, they kind of went under the radar for some reason. And I guess my criticism of that then was that, boy, if you guys would have been, talking about it at the board meetings consistently to prep people and to prepare people, and that's where I see that was a mistake there. I think part of the being a selectman is
But I'll
being
give you a strong example. I think sometimes the paper makes more of an issue out of things than all this is strong-term rental. As a selectman, when I get consistently asked for that 3 years, when is Market Basket opening?
Oh, I know that. I mean, believe me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way of the world. But
It is the way of the world.
yeah, Dave, leadership.
I think for the boards that I've served on over the years, adopting to new ideas, did it come from the selectmen or did it come from the public? And take short-term rentals. Why did we get into that situation? COVID. In my mind, that's where the whole thing started. People started seeing they wanted to get out of the city, they wanted to come up here where they thought it was safer and the environment was better, and that's when the problems started to arise. Implementing a new program is always going to have wrinkles, and I don't care who comes up with the idea, Joe Public or the selectmen. To say that you need new ideas, depending on who starts it, who generates the discussion, where does it go from there? Take parking. You were a big advocate, or you were saying to people that I was in favor of parking.
I mean, the paid parking.
Paid parking. I was not. I was the only one that wanted to put it on the ballot for the voters to decide whether or not they wanted to have paid parking. But that's not what's being conveyed. So I got chastised as being a bad guy. I was pushing paid parking down the people's throat. That did not occur. You know it, and I know it.
Well, I didn't know that you were not in favor of it.
I was the only one. I wanted to put it on the ballot for the voters to decide. If you look back through the minutes, you'll see that.
Okay, it does get. I'm being defensive here, Dave.
Well,
but
I
think
am too.
sometimes when you vote for something, what you're really saying, you're just voting for it to be on the ballot.
I said that in open public discussion.
All right. Well, then, if we got that wrong, that was wrong. That's for sure. But everybody else voted for the paid. You were a big advocate for the paid paddling too.
Yep.
And and the people in North Conway are saying nobody even talked to anybody in North Conway about it. Period. I mean, the merchants weren't involved with it. There were no hearings about it. I mean, it was just kind of by decree you were going to start the paid parking program, and even today it couldn't work. We still don't have a cell tower.
Right.
And that's what I get at. I'm not trying to beat you guys up for sure, but that's what I get at about leadership and preparation How could even propose a paid parking program when physically it couldn't even work?
Well, so in defense of that, when we reached a point where we realized it wasn't feasible, then we withdrew, from doing it. But it was a work in progress to try to be progressive, to go forward, to find a revenue stream for the town that would increase the revenue, decrease the tax load, whether it's the House Bill 1254, which just got voted down, a Homestead Act, paid parking, or whatever, to increase the revenue for the town. Right. Some of these programs are feasible and work, and some aren't. Will paid parking come up again in a different form? Yes.
Well, paid parking, we could have an hour discussion on paid parking.
We could.
But paid parking, towns do it to solve parking problems, and then they get some revenue. They don't do it only to get revenue because there's a cost to it. Yeah. And most towns that have paid parking, the merchants want it to turn traffic over. We don't have that situation. Yeah. All right, we got 5 minutes to go. Dave, a couple minutes on why people should vote for you this time.
If they look at past history, I'm conservative in nature. Excuse me. I try to, every vote, take the voters into consideration and take what the community, when I say community, I'm talking the land, how it can support that move. What wasn't discussed, you had it as a topic, where is the growth going to be coming down the road?
Yes.
And that is, there's only so much available land in the town of Conway. And between the Forest Service, National Forest on the left, the floodplain ordinance in the middle of the town, and then the Green Hills, there's only so much land. Myself, unless you expand the precincts for sewer and water in certain areas, like going out 153 out towards my house, there's only so much land that they're going to be able to develop. Do you want to go up rather than out? And most people don't want to lose the scenic view. I understand that. But we take into consideration, we're promoting this valley, we want the tourism, we complain about the traffic afterwards, but they want the people here. Where are they going to go? Where is the housing for the people that are going to support these people, these businesses? It just isn't here and they can't afford it.
So is their solution, the Bill Marvel solution is don't have any more people move to town?
How do you control that?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Which is a good question. The hotel, like, I'm going to squeeze this one in and can answer it with your last minute, about the hotel moratorium with affordable housing. I know it's a planning board issue, but the people are voting for the moratorium again, but you've got Ashok Patel, who bought the Red Jacket and he owns the Yankee Clipper, and he can't put housing in. He wanted to put housing in part of the renovation of those hotels, and he can't do that because of the moratorium, which is at odds for the need for affordable housing. Dave, what do you think about the moratorium, the hotel moratorium?
I don't know that much about it, to be honest. Right. I know we need housing. I didn't understand, like at the Red Jacket, why they couldn't rebuild that section that was burned and update the old structure to meet current standards. Is that a part of the moratorium? You're saying no, they can't do that? He can
build on his own footprint.
Right.
But my understanding is he wants to put housing back there too, and he can't. He wants, maybe it's just employee housing, but it's still housing. But he can't expand the footprint with the moratorium. That's my understanding.
He's got housing back there. He's got the condominiums back there.
Well, I don't.
There's the Admiral Suites, which are condominiums back there. And for the moratorium, I think we have hotels that can't open, for workers and stuff. I mean, there's just lots of issues. There's infrastructure issues in the town as to how we're going to support more rooms. I know from a chamber perspective, there are large organizations who would come here, do conventions and meetings if there were more hotel beds available. So there's two sides to every story. As far as the Red Jacket property, I know it's consistently been said they can rebuild in the footprint, they can update. As far as what else they want to do with that acreage, that's all speculation. What I heard on the street is they wanted to build a companion hotel on the site, not anything about housing. That's the first that I've, heard about housing. So there's, too much speculation.
So why should people vote for you, John?
I think I'm very personally biased. I think I've done a good job as selectman. I wish to continue. I think there's work still to be done. I tend to be progressive. As a young buck, I was very liberal. Now I'm quite moderate, if not more conservative. I think we do a good job, and we need to continue managing the budget, which was one of the subjects
Right.
we didn't get to. But I think the current board and the staff do a great job of holding the line for the taxpayers. And I would just like to continue the work that I've been doing. And I also, the 20 hours a week, I have the time to do the job.
Good. Jack, moratorium, and then why vote for you?
Oh, I definitely, well, moratorium is something that needs to be continued, I believe, temporarily for another. I
Even
think
though
it's,
you're the economic development guy.
it has nothing to do with that. What I'm concerned about is, that's why I'm saying the moratorium is for another year, which is okay, but I'm more concerned about north of the village of North Conway and the stuff that can happen with Lower Intervale getting water and sewer. That whole traffic pattern north of North Conway Village, I'm scared to death of what can be built there and the heights of the buildings that can go there, because the view heights only goes up to a certain point. There's a lot of things that the planning board, I think, can do to be able to put some limitations on what can be built, which would allow some housing. Do we need to have 4-story buildings of hotels and motels all the way down, all the way through?
Well, you've got one next to your house.
I know we do, and it's the ugliest thing that I can see. And the one right next to
Domino's.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. That's
you
right.
think that's? I mean, it's either,
Who would want to stay in a hotel that you're looking over at a parking lot, or you're looking right on 16?
It's right next to the road.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Who wants to do that? All I'm saying is the moratorium put a hold on something to prevent something happening, and it scares me with what's his name, Patel could do to other buildings next to the new hotel on Intervale Crossroads in 16, because I'm sure that building is up for sale too.
Now the one at Intervale Crossroads, that's in North Conway, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's on town water.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I am. Yeah.
So they could build all the way from right now. You could build from White Mountain Oil up past you, right?
There's nothing in the planning that prevents anything east or west of Route 16 from the village up. Outside of, I shouldn't say that, from Sheds Wood, I think, is where it ends in that area. Anything north of that is not protected by view or height or anything else.
Right.
And with water and sewer going into Lower Intervale, it scares me, because then you'd have the ability to do some other things.
It's
there.
inevitable. People ask me about hotels. I say, give it another 10 years, we'll have another 10 hotels.
Well,
I
maybe
mean, that's capitalism.
Look at the White Trellis Motel properties for sale.
Yeah.
That's almost 3 acres.
And
that
on
could
town-
be anything.
That could be town water, and that's
Yes.
town water and
It
Tennessee.
Yes. Yeah.
And where's the Lower Intervale, Lower Bartlett water extension? Where's
After
that?
Hurricane Mountain Road.
After towards where? I mean, just going north on Route
North.
16?
North. Yeah.
Well, we went over our time. Jack, you got to say 1 minute why people should vote for you.
I love the people to vote for me. I really felt like I enjoyed being on the board back in the day. I think there's some ideas that I can bring forward and help move forward and help with the growth of the staff and so on and so forth and what's going on. I have some questions that I wanted to ask Johnny Eastman and the selectmen down the road. But the thing is that it's an opportunity to come back. I had to leave back in my select position. I had gotten elected because I took the job on the council. But
you're still on the council. I mean,
yeah, but I'm going to be getting.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna have the
Are
time.
you retiring? Are you announcing your retirement?
I'm not yet. Within the next year and a half, probably.
So you can be a selectman
Yes,
And-
yes,
okay.
I asked the,
All right.
I asked the
Anybody
board.
else have, we're past our hour, so anything
I'd
else
just
you want
like
to
to
say,
make
Dave?
one final comment.
Yeah.
I don't know if the voters appreciate what's there now, but we have an excellent town staff. I can't think of a single department that I enjoy working with more than the other. They're really good and they're dedicated. And John stepped up where Tom's left, and I think he's doing an excellent job, and his support staff is right there.
And I just want to throw one thing in to support me, is that everybody that we had in the staff up until recently was hired by myself and the select board, with five-man board, when we were there. Everybody that was
I
there,
mean, Earl Sires and Tom
Tom
Irving.
Holmes and
Yeah.
Tom Irving, and
Good staff. John,
Dan
any
Panda.
last words?
Thank you for the forum.
Okay,
Thank
good,
you for
okay.
hosting the
Nice,
forum.
thanks,
I
guys.
look forward to next week. You're
Yeah.
going to do the other three
Yeah,
candidates.
okay,
so
very
yeah,
good. It's
very
nothing
good.
like
Thank you.
having 4 old white guys talking.
Yeah, really, exactly.
You said that, I didn't.
oh my God!
I can't believe you said that.
I thought of it. I
Time to
didn't say
go.
it.
Bye-bye.